So I'm going to go back to this adaptive learning curve, or that, again, this is from Heifetz and Linsky in their book Leadership on the Line, and other programs that they have. And this is in your handout. So we have our timeline, which is always a nice horizontal line. I think humans are hardwired to think of it that way. And then there's the level of disequilibrium that the group is in, is the other line on this chart. So the idea of adaptive learning is that there's this place of productive distress that we need to be in to be able to learn. If you studied educational theory, John Dewey, this is classic Deweyan education, that we go through our lives kind of on autopilot. We come up against some sort of problem. We have to engage with that problem. Then we incorporate that learning as we move forward in our lives. Process theology sort of has the same kind of idea to it, by the way. So anyway, there's this place of productive distress that we want, as leaders, we want to keep in our minds. When we engage, or when we encounter a technical problem, what happens is something happens, the roof leaks or something, and we get into this red zone, this zone where people are freaking out, anxiety's raised. We go into our lizard brains, the fight or flight reactions. We tend to not be able to be creative or to reason when we're in that area. So with technical problems, if we have the power, the authority, the resources, the roof is leaking, for example, we're able to address it right away and solve it, and then we go back down to the area of calm and happiness down here, the Garden of Eden, if you will. All is well. Now, with an adaptive problem, adaptive problems often masquerade as technical problems. We think they're technical problems, and we come up with something to address it. Stewardship, using the example of stewardship. Oh, this year we're going to have focus groups instead of just sending out cards. So a little bit of that, and what we really need to do is have people feel a sense of ownership of the congregation, but instead we just change our technique of from one method to another. Not that that technique can't be a strategy in an adaptive solution, but it's a solution that's just sort of a Band-Aid on the problem. Actually, tweaking the service time might be a work avoidance thing as well. There might be something. It's a constant problem that we're facing at Kent, and we keep tweaking the service time, but there's probably something else we should be looking at. So what we need to do, I want to say one more thing about work avoidance, is work avoidance can also be in meetings. If you hear somebody crack a joke during a time of tension, it's always good to go back and see what happened just before that joke, because making light of something or trying to take the tension down is a way of people turning down the heat, and that can be a way of work avoidance. Another thing is creating a conflict. So, for example, one of the classic things is people complain that the minister's sermons are to fill in the blank, and that's the presenting issue. Well, there's maybe the minister isn't doing pastoral care, but people complain about the sermons because if they complain about pastoral care, then they feel needy or something. So, work avoidance can show up as red herrings. It can show up as a lot of different things. So with adaptive problems, what we need to do as leaders is to keep people in this zone of productive distress. If they start feeling like the problem's solved, we tweaked the service time, they won't engage with what the underlying issues are. If things are too hot, one service is completely crowded and people are really uncomfortable, and the other service has crickets in the back making noise. That's in the too hot zone, and people are going to stress out about it. So you want people to have enough anxiety or disequilibrium to engage with the problem, but not so much that they're still able to be creative. So that's this zone. So we call this the threshold of learning. You're not going to learn unless you have a certain level of discomfort or distress. But if you're too hot, that's your limit of tolerance. You're not able to learn above that. And this is where we want to keep adaptive challenges. So as leaders, we have to be able to be comfortable with other people's discomfort, other people's disequilibrium, in order to keep them in that zone. Does that make sense? Any questions?
Intellectually, it makes perfect sense, but I'm ready to do some case studies.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So part of the spiritual challenge of leaders is learning how to hide our panic from others, because, I mean, there's going to be times when we're going to be freaking out or feeling like, I just don't want to deal with this anymore, and let's just, you know, maybe this solution isn't really work avoidance, let's try it. And then also disappointing people at a pace they can tolerate. So this goes back to that the authority given to leadership. There's a certain level of direction and safety and that people need, and to be able to provide containers for that when they need to. And this is really paying close attention to what's going on with the people in the congregation. Let's see. Oh, the other thing is that we just need to be clear as leaders that the purpose of the church is not to make people happy. That is Disney World. Our purpose is to make the world a better place based on our transcendent values. So if you're worried about people being happy, it just, you know, it reinforces the status quo. And this is, I hear this a lot from Sue Phillips as well as others. The posture of non-change is unfaithful. We are the living tradition. We are the tradition that has always engaged with the context in which we are, in the real world, in our real bodies. And so, in order to be faithful, we need to help the members of our congregation be able to engage with change. So here's an example of an adaptive challenge, the three little pigs and seeing the big bad wolf going through the bricks. So they're going to have to really rethink what it means to